Hi there, and welcome back to the Simply Stated channel. This is Joyce, and I'm glad you could be with me. Today we're going to be looking at Jesus' anointing in Bethany. You know, he has gone into Jerusalem. Yesterday we saw him confronting the Pharisees and the teachers of the law. And today we find him, it's more of a day of rest. This would have been on Wednesday of Passion Week, and we just see him relaxing in the city of Bethany. Now, Bethany is about 2 miles from Jerusalem, so he's not completely outside of Jerusalem at this point. He's still able to easily access it. So let's take a look at Matthew 26, and we're going to go and read the chapter Matthew 26, verses 6 through 14. So read along with me, if you will. When Jesus finally finished saying all these things, and I'm sorry, I started at verse 1. Let's go to verse 6. Verse 6, while Jesus was in Bethany, in the home of a man known as Simon the leper, a woman came to him with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume, which she poured on his head while he was reclining at the table. When the disciples saw this, they were indignant. Why this waste, they asked. This perfume could have been sold at a high price and the money given to the poor. Aware of this, Jesus said to them, why are you bothering this woman? She has done a beautiful thing to me. The poor you will always have with you, but you will not always have me. When she poured this perfume on my body, she did it to prepare me for burial. I tell you the truth, wherever this gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will be told in memory of her. Then one of the 12, the one called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priest and asked, what are you willing to give me if I hand him over to you? So they counted out for him 30 pieces of silver coins. From then on, Judas watched for an opportunity to hand him over. So, like I said, the scene is set up. It's generally a time right now, and Jesus is resting, and he has gone to a house of Simon the leper. Now, let me just give you some background information on this. In Bethany, Bethany was known as the house of the sick, or the house of mercy. And so Jesus is there, and one of the people that is there and is actually hosting this event, this dinner in honor of Jesus, is Simon. Now, Simon doesn't have leprosy right now, but he is known as Simon the leper. That's the way people would identify him, versus Simon Peter or Simon of Judah. This is his name, and they would refer to him as Simon the leper. I don't know if this is one of the lepers that was healed by Jesus or not. It does not tell us, but we do know that he is honoring Jesus in his home. The other Gospels tell us some more information that actually Lazarus was also there in attendance. And Martha was there to serve, and she is serving at this dinner. In that culture, women were not usually invited in to this situation unless they were serving the meal. And so we see Martha, but we don't see Mary, interestingly. But as the story progresses, they're there, Jesus is reclining, he's enjoying that meal that they have prepared. There are people there, and all of a sudden, there comes in a woman, and the scriptures tell us she's uninvited. Now, other Gospels give us an identity and say it's Mary. Mary is the one. Mary, the sister of Martha and the sister of Lazarus. She's the one that comes in. And she's carrying with her something. What was it? It was an alabaster jar of spikenard. Now this spikenard, according to scholars, was worth 300 denarii. Actually, that was a man's wages for 1 year, because he got 1 denarii a day. And so this was very costly. It would have been around $10,000 today in this measure of this economy. Very, very. And once the jar was open and the spikenard filled the area, it would fill the entire home. It was made from a very rare plant from India, no less. And so it was extremely expensive. But what's more important is Mary's act, or this uninvited woman's act. And what she proceeds to do is she proceeds to anoint Jesus with this costly spikenard. And it is, like I said, it is smelled throughout the entire home. Everyone can smell it. And watch her as she is down and she is anointing him. Now, the other scriptures tell us that she anointed his feet, and some of them even say that his head was anointed also. But we do know that she was anointing him with a very costly perfume. And what she does is, when she actually anoints him and puts the oil on his feet, she actually takes off her covering over her head, and with wanton abandonment begins to wipe his feet with her hair. Now, like I said, this was very costly perfume. But what she does is, number one, potentially more costly to Mary than just the perfume, because she is actually taking a chance that she is more or less the real Rapunzel. She's letting her hair down. She's taking it, and she's taking it to full measure, and she doesn't care who's there and who sees her. She is going to wipe Jesus's feet with her own hair. That displays utter devotion. And so she's down and she's anointing him, and she's wiping off his feet with her own hair. And you know, she's got to be in a lowly position, and like I said, she doesn't care. She doesn't care who sees her. She is in utter worship before her king. And comments are made about it. And in this passage, it says the disciples, some of the disciples. In other passages, it says Judas. Now, no doubt, there were other than Judas proclaiming, wait a minute, this is a scene here, and she had no reason to take this costly, expensive perfume and throw it away on Jesus. She should have been giving us the monies that it cost her to get this perfume, and let us feed the poor with it. And that was the general consensus. And Jesus tells them, stop, don't you dare bother her. Don't you dare. She is doing an act, and she is literally preparing my body for burial. And just so you know, guys, what she's done for me will be remembered throughout history. Truer words have never been spoken. Today we're talking about it. How many thousands of years later? We still talk about the devotion of the uninvited woman, of possibly Mary, anointing Jesus. And Jesus commends her for it. understand it's kind of like what we do today in our communities of worship, in our churches. Yeah, we have a potential, if we're like the disciples and we don't understand everything that's going on, we can be very hypocritical. And we can say, now why did they do that? You know, we do it about the programs in the church. We do it about the worship in the church. We question everything and think that we're holier than thou and we have the answers and why they shouldn't be doing this or why they should be doing this. It's no different than it was back in Jesus' day. But they're being hypocritical, especially one. And that one was Judas. Judas, we know in John's gospel, was a thief. He was the carrier of the purse. And we know that he was a thief and was taking money from the purse. And he's standing here and proclaiming, wait a minute, she shouldn't have done that. That was like stealing from the purse. We could have given this to the poor, when he's literally taking money himself from the purse. Just like today, we see it in our culture, we see it on the news, we see it in social media, we see it in our governments, and we see it in our church. Those people that are screaming the loudest are the ones that are actually doing the very same thing that they're accusing the other person of doing. So we need to be aware of that, and we need to look at this. If anything, it tells us, you know what, we need to extend honor to the person that was doing this. This wasn't something we thought of. This wasn't our utter devotion. This was hers alone. And instead of being hypocritical, we need to be the ones like Jesus and commend her for it. This cost Mary everything she had and everything within the community. Because let me tell you what, just like Jesus said, she was talked about back then, and at that time it was not very nice what they were saying about her. How dare her do this, but how dare her take her veil off, her covering, her head covering off, in order to wipe his feet with her hair? How dare she do that? She made a public display of emotion. And it cost her. But she didn't care. She let it all hang out. She let her hair down. And she didn't care who was watching. She was going to worship the one true King. We need to do that. We need to be free. We don't have to worry about who's watching or who's not watching. We just need to worship our King. We need to display the other devotion that Mary displayed when she anoints him. And the flip side of that is, we know who's going to betray Jesus right now, don't we? I think that's stated out in the history book. So, you know what's really interesting is, do you find a child anymore being named Judas? Absolutely not. That is a name of condemnation. And so it's interesting that this happens, that Judas, if he is mentioned in history, is persona non grata. He is the deceiver. And in John, it talks about that Satan enters into Judas. But Judas had opened a door. Judas was a thief and was stealing and was accusing someone else of taking money that was needed. He was a deceiver. He was a thief. We need to be cognizant of that today in our houses of worship. You know, wolves come in sheep's clothing. And I think I've said this to a lot of people. Satan has as much of a vested interest in the church as Jesus, and he would love to come in, cause dissension, cause destruction. And Jesus says he comes to kill, steal, and destroy. And if he could get to split, to have factions, to drift away from the church. That is his intention, because their witness has been destroyed. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I know it's short, and that's fine, because we're going to go on in our next lesson, and we're going to talk about a new covenant, the Last Supper. Listen, thanks again for being here with me. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you are getting something from this journey that we're on to understand what was going on and what the implications are during Passion Week for us. If you will, do me a favor and like and subscribe, and I will see you all shortly. Love you. Bye-bye.